So now we're recording. I appreciate you guys for joining. What I want to share with you guys today is the 8 keys to sales success. And so these keys should help you take your sales game and your level of communication with not only your prospect, but also your family, your friends, your service people when you go out to a restaurant. Mr. Jones, I see you, brother. Nice of you to join us, man. Thank you. Um, but this will take you to the next level, in my opinion, in just life and how you communicate. But it also helps with sales. So the 8 keys to sales success. Number 1 is know your customer. Before communicating with your customer directly, you might take some time to understand who your customer actually is. Now, this varies, from type of product and in this industry and in investing. It depends on whether you're dealing with a multifamily, a single family, a duplex, a trailer, vironment, all sorts of host of other factors, but the basic knowledge is still the same. And so who is our customer? For instance, if you're a car salesman like I was for several years, you need to understand that the customer comes to you because they're interested in purchasing a vehicle. It may not seem obvious, but the fact is that they came to your lot to look for a vehicle. Whether they're buying today, tomorrow, next week, or next year, they're looking at a vehicle. And a lot of times I noticed when I was in the car business, we would have, sales associates and then have sales professionals. The associates would walk up to somebody and say, hey, how's your day going? The professionals would say, hey, what type of vehicle are you looking for today? Know your customer. Your customers, and if you're in car sales or if you ever go into car sales, your customer came to your lot because they're looking for a vehicle. Whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, or next year, they're going to buy. They're going to break down. They're going to need someone in the industry. Going into real estate, know your customer. You're going to have a conversation to where they know that you buy houses, or you are a realtor, or you are an investor, and that is, knowing your customer. You have to also relay or convey that this is the objective. This is, what you do and what you provide. And if your customer doesn't fit within that, knowing your customer helps, because now they're going to eliminate themselves before you have to eliminate them. Does that make sense? One of the most profound realizations that I had was that as a sales professional, I am providing a service. It's not necessarily about getting the largest commission, although that's a perk, and I strive to make my processes better as I perfect them, but more so about guiding that customer or seller along the path to a solution. Think of yourself like you're a tour guide, an expert in your field. No matter if you're just starting out, Chris, like you are, or if you've been doing this like Shawn and I have for several years, you're the expert. And if you act as if you've been assigned to aid this person through their travel as a tour guide through the jungle, per se. And if you don't know the answer to something, that's a great question. Just be honest. That's a great question. Let me get with my business partner, because he normally handles stuff like that, and I'll get back to you. And just be honest that you don't know the answer. Things like that, but come across as the professional. Although the concept is
I didn't look at it.
I'm going to mute Manuel there. Although it may seem kind of abstract, when you master this simple concept, it will truly separate yourself from everyone else. It will truly make you the professional. Fortunately, it's not hard to, and it's not a hard concept to master. It's really just simply remembering that you work with the customer and you're not conspiring against them. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So for real estate, Bryce, like if you're wholesaling, for example, would the right question be to ask, like, what are you looking to do with your property?
That's a great question. It depends on what you want to do. Do you want to wholesale it, Are you a listing agent? Are you a buyer's agent? It depends on what you want to do. In real estate investing, I want them to know the service that I provide, I'm a buyer. I don't care if you give them more options, and I'm going to actually kind of get into this in the next topic, which is know your product or service. If you give them 20 options, you're going to overwhelm them, right? You know, traditionally, Josh, and I'm going to use you as an example because I can relate, you know, with my fiance and her culture, right? But traditionally, an Asian culture is very over analytical. Is that fair to assume?
Yeah, fair to assume.
If I gave you 20 options, maybe not you, but if I gave your mom or your aunt 20 options, what's going to happen? You're going to get overwhelmed, right? Now you
Right,
got 20 options that you hadn't considered, and you better do your homework on every single one of those legs, right?
right.
Do you want to do that when you're talking to somebody that you're just trying to get a contract to? Does that make sense?
Probably not. Yeah.
Now, that's why I don't ask that question the way that you worded it. What I ask is, you know, depending on whether I'm cold calling, which I don't do a lot of anymore just because of our systems, but what I would ask if you're simply starting out and you're cold calling, I would ask, tell me a little bit about why you're looking to sell your property today.
Right. Because
So
you want to find their motivation.
I want to find their motivation. I want them to know that I'm a buyer. And I'm not trying to list their property. I'm not trying to help them. You know, one of the calls I had right before our call today, the guy wants me to just help him find an apartment. I don't have time for that. There's 20 other people. He's like, if you find me an apartment, I can use this money for that. How much do you want to sell your property for today? We can
Right.
worry about that later. I'm not in the apartment locating business. I've got 3 agents that do that. And so you have to know your product and you have to know your value. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's a great question, Josh.
Yeah.
Michael, do you have a question?
No, I was just agreeing. That makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. All right. So step number 2, or the second key to success in sales, is knowing your product or service. So I posed the question in a group, have you ever had a purchase experience where you felt like you knew more about the product or the service than the salesperson?
Yeah.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yep.
And you don't really want to buy from that person providing that product or service, right?
No,
Go ahead.
no, I was just agreeing. No, I wouldn't want to buy them.
It's ironic because this happens a lot in real estate. You go and talk to a realtor that has sold one house, like 80% of realtors, right? And you're like, well, I want to be in Stonewall Jackson School District on the M Streets in Dallas. Well, okay, the M Streets, okay. You know, well, why that school? And they're trying to like dig around and this, that, and the other. Well, why that school? If you don't know that's the number 1 school in the public Dallas school system, you're crazy. You're a realtor, you know? I'm using that as an example. Now, do you remember when you guys have had that experience, do you remember how you felt hesitant about your purchase because the salesperson wasn't as acknowledgeable, right? I share that because as a sales professional, you must always keep in mind that your primary goal is to be the product or the service expert, capable of making sure your customer feels confident in you and the service that you provide. And the best way to do this is to know your business inside and out. And so that's why we've got this group here, right? If you need questions asked, we have this group here. We're not going to ridicule you if you do have a question that seems very elementary. Chris, that's why I said don't belittle yourself, because you're going to have questions that we've all had one time. Don't be afraid to ask those questions, even if they seem very trivial. And if they seem that way, that's probably just something you're telling yourself, because somebody else in this group has had or does have the same question or concern. They just haven't spoke up because they felt the same way. And so that's why I don't like that negative self-talk, because we lie as humans. We lie to ourselves. And when we do that, we hinder relationships. We hinder our ability to sell. We hinder our inability to present our product or service, just like the realtor experience. When I talked to the lady about living in this area, she didn't know who the heck or what the heck Stonewall Jackson School was. I don't feel that I'm better than everybody else. I don't need to have my son in private school, even though all my neighbors do. I wanted to know what the closest public school was because I was going to save a buck, right? All my neighbors have their kids in private school. I could care less. I want to know what the best school system was that I could put him in. And it just so happened I'm like one block on the borderline from getting him in the school district, and now he goes to a public school, you know? But I knew more about it than she did. I wasn't too excited about moving into a home that she was trying to present. And so I use that as an example. So number 2, know your product or service. You know, after all, how can you hope to help guide someone through a purchasing product, you're right, if you don't even know all the capabilities of what you have to offer? You know, if you guys are just new to this thing and you have questions, ask the questions like I've said, but also read books. I've got a book coming out. Some of you guys have book suggestions, I'm sure. Feel free to chime in, but I'll give you 2. Than Merrill's Wholesaling Bible, the Wholesaling Real Estate Bible by Than Merrill. It's probably, in my opinion, the best wholesaling book out there. And there's been several that have come out recently that are garbage that everybody talked about because they had a good marketing campaign. And I'll just leave it at that. But if you haven't read Than Merrill's The Wholesaling Bible, I highly recommend it until I get my book out. 60 days. Give me 60 days. This book will be out. All right. You know, all that said, like learning, your customer, it's a very critical step. You know, you've got to accomplish that ever before sitting down to desk a deal, is what a lot of people would say. I don't necessarily, you know, I say desk a deal, that's old car business language, but, you know, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that with the right people around you, not having all the necessary information, as long as you get a contract in real estate, you can figure it out along the way. It's one thing that I found. You can figure it out along the way. Okay? Number 3, I want to talk about communication. Sales is all about communicating effectively. I'm going to tell you guys a story before I kind of read the summary here that I had typed up. But I have always been a business consultant. And one of the clients that I had that contracted with me to come in and sell or train their sales team was a company by the name of Magna Resources. They're in North Dallas, and they are a gas and oil joint ventures organization. So long story short, they have a scientist, they have a biologist, and they have all these people, and they go out and they find where oil is or could be. And then they sell to Fortune 500 company CEOs and CFOs and VPs of companies these $100,000, $500,000, $1 million packages to go into business with them and hopefully find oil in this particular area. And I walked into their sales room, their boiler room, as they like to call it, which they actually had set up very nicely, and everybody had executive offices with soundproof barriers, right? And here's these guys in suits and ties, which you would think this is like the Wolf of Wall Street room, right? And they're all pitching, and they suck. It's no wonder they couldn't close a deal. Not only are they asking for $500,000, but they're saying things like, "Hey, Mr. Jones, I'd really like to move forward with you on this project. Are you in, or what? Hell no, I'm not in. You just gave me 5 ways from Sunday to say no by saying or." You know, communication is key. So I share that with you. Think about that as you go through your daily life. If you guys watch Dylan's videos in the groups, you'll notice as he has progressed over the last 2 months, his language has changed. His direction and his delivery has changed. What you don't notice is on his wrist, he's got rubber bands. This is a very simple tip. If you guys want a very simple tip to help you with your communication, watch Dylan the next time he's prospecting. He's got rubber bands on his wrist. The reason for it? Because he said dumb stuff like, or, get it out of your vocabulary. And when you do, you'll find you will take your communication, your speaking and clearly motivating other people and customers down the path in which you want. The whole purpose of the rubber band is every time he said or, he'd snap the rubber band. And he's already broke like 2 or 3 of them. But that's why he's got him on there, and that's why his verbiage, you look back in the videos, you can see it. I just did it the other night. It's amazing. In 2 months, he sounds like he's been doing this for 5 years, if not more. So communication is key. In fact, most of the tips that I give, you can see in all of the conversations. So if you're not confident in your ability to communicate effectively, this is definitely a skill that you should hone in on. Reading communication books like how to win friends and influence others. Have conversations with mentors and coaches like myself, and there's tons of them out there. But find somebody that you respect and how they communicate, and ask them questions. One thing that I would help you, that I could give you on the part of communication, would be to write less and say more, and then produce powerful written communication. Meaning, as you transcribe your conversations with customers, let me step back. Take a recording with you. Record. That's why we have this group, right? Record your prospecting calls so you can go back and listen to them. I'm not going to go back and listen to them. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't have time. But if you tag me, hey, what did you think? I'll listen to that little snip at 53 minutes and 12 seconds. Or listen to it yourself and let other people critique you along the way if they do. That's the whole purpose of this group. But listen to it yourself. And then what I said there was write less, say more, and then produce a more powerful written communication. What I mean by that is when you speak more and then take notes on it, meaning you record this conversation and then you transcribe it, something happens in the intellectual mind as you are writing down what a powerful spoken word is. You learn it faster. And there's a term for it. Michael, I've seen you shaking your head. Maybe you know what the term is. I don't remember the term. I learned this years ago. But whenever I'm going into a speaking opportunity, I will speak my gig, my speech or my spiel out into a recorder, and then I'll transcribe it and write it. So that way I know what I'm thinking in my head. So when I write, I exit out on the paper, and in my head, I don't say it again. Does that make sense? We're only on step 3. I feel like I've got you guys glazed over right now. Is this too much? Any questions so far?
No, I don't think we're gays. It's just an awe moment. It's like probably a lot of us didn't think real estate being this in depth when it comes to sales techniques and stuff. But I'm getting it because when I was a detective, they taught us the same thing: body language, just certain key words, and
yeah,
it's. I love this stuff, man. I love it.
Yeah, and if you were a detective, you didn't share that earlier. If you were a detective, they teach you just the basics to get along. You would be surprised, Michael. I'm not bragging, but I haven't always been the nicest guy on the block. I have outsmarted and outwitted and outcommunicated detectives sitting on the other side of the table. And I'm not proud of that, but it's scary that they give our law enforcement just enough to squeak by and then expect you to go do it on your own. And most of them, like normal society, don't do, right?
Nope.
And they never get educated. And so it's important that you continue your education at all cost. All right. The number 4 key to sales success: asking questions in order to get to know your customers' needs, pains, and wants. Asking questions. So you already realize the importance of understanding who your customer is before actually meeting them, combined with, product knowledge and so forth, right? So how do you do this? It all starts by asking questions. You can ask questions in this group. There's 10,000 other groups. Josh, there's the cap for you, by the way. Thank you, Shawn, for letting him join us as usual. But it all starts by asking questions. You don't understand everything you can about your customer or your product or your service. So you make proper or appropriate recommendations, right, that meet the needs and wants of these people. If you can find a product or a service that meets all of the customer attributes, closing the sale is easy. So now imagine if you have the solution every single time. You can provide that if you ask the right questions. Think about that. You may only have one lifeline to throw out there, but if your lifeline has the golden question attached to it that triggers, this is my lifeline, you're going to save their life. Michael, you were a police officer. Our other friend was Chris, was a firefighter. I mean, you guys save lives, right? I'm a real estate investor. I'm a lifesaver too. I get people in tough situations. Grandma's mama's sister, brother died, and none of the family knows how to handle it. Whew, that's overwhelming. Let me see what I can do. If I could take care of that for you, would you do business with me today? I get to save their life. I get to take that weight off of their shoulder. Believe it or not, asking the right question isn't difficult. As a sales professional, your most powerful asset is your mouth, right? No.
Yes.
No. It's your ears. By listening to your customer, you can find out exactly what makes them tick, or perhaps more appropriately, exactly what makes them say yes. And so, there's the old saying, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use it appropriately, right? Or approximately. I think it's the proximity or whatever, right? When you ask the right questions, you might not always get the answer that you want. But if you listen intently, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself if I recall if you listen intently, I like to role play. And when you guys are on here with me, I'll do this. I'll do something like this to where I'll turn my video off and it's like this and I'm talking so you can't necessarily see me, right? I do that so that way you don't get this false imagination of what's going on, and you can pretend like I'm truly a customer if you ever decide to coach with me. The reason I do that is for 2 parts. 1, I don't want to intimidate you, but 2, I want you to read between the lines. What am I saying or doing when I'm not actually right in front of you and you're just simply on the phone? I went and did something while I turned my camera off. Did anybody hear what I did? Anybody?
I heard your chair move, but no.
You heard my chair move. Okay. What I did was I went and filled up my cup with water because I'm doing a lot of talking. And I know that I could hear the from the water if I was on the other end, if I'm sitting in your shoes, you should be listening that intently so that you can hear everything behind what they're saying. My fiance likes to call it, you read between the lines. Get out of the line. She hates it. Well, when you say that you're going to the store, I know that you're just going to the store. But when you say, I'm going to go to the store, what are you really doing? You know, I'm not possessive, but are you trying to be sneaky so you can surprise me, or were you looking to ask me a question if I wanted something? You're not confident. Do you need to go get your nails done too? Do you need my credit card? You know, like what's going on there, right? I see between the lines, and she hates it, and I'm usually right. You got to be able to listen intently when you're communicating with these people. And you can do that by asking questions and hearing how they answer and how they respond. Now, believe it or not, it's not, like I said, it's not difficult, you know, going through, you know, the car buying process. I'll use that as an example and then relate it to how real estate is. A good salesperson asks all the questions that may be relevant in the buying process. You know, interesting and enough, many customers don't know what type of vehicle they'd really like to buy. And this is that car salesman's opportunity to put your product knowledge to use, right? When you go, when you're selling a car or a car salesman selling a car, you know, they need to know how many people are in the family. Well, same thing with real estate. So you're selling the house. Oh man, tell me about that. Is this your decision or is this everybody? Is there other people involved that need to make this decision with you? Oh, you know, I need to talk to my wife. Okay. Is she around? Let's have a conversation where all three of us can sit down so we're all on the same page. Well, grandma gave me this house. Okay. Well, did she go through probate and has it been willed to you, or how did you come about having this house? Now you know if you need to go through probate. You need to know, now you'll know that you need to work out affidavits of heirships or just a direct heirship affidavit of kin, you know, different types of paperwork in every state, right? And so you have to be able to ask these questions, but also listen between the lines and hear what they're saying when they're not really saying.
That's definitely important, especially about the heirs, because I had a deal not under contract, but basically verbally, and then later on he came back and told me, well, my brother and sister didn't like the price, and I forgot. I normally ask, is there more than one heir? And those are things you learn through experience. A lot of these tips that you give, you learn through doing them. So if you don't trial by error, you're never going to learn. You always learn when you do something wrong. You know, you learn more. It's easier to learn that way, I think.
And you're absolutely right, Shawn. And that's why I like real estate, because you can fall and there's still things in place to hold you up to get you through. And there's not many groups like this, you know, other than like Propelio, that's going to give you these tips. You know, they're out there trying to market a deal. I want you guys to know that I'm here for you. And when you want, you know, one-on-one advice and you want a partner or you need financing or whatever, I'll partner with you. I've got a coaching program, but I'm not out here pushing it and selling it. You know, it's not my first priority. I want you guys to know that there is a ton of stuff that people aren't telling you that they're hoping and keeping from you because they want to get the deal. They want to cut you out of the deal, or they think that if you're in here getting the deal, there's not going to be enough deal for them because they're lying to themselves. You know, I've got half of this group is Dallas Fort Worth members. You think I'm scared of them? No. I love them all, but they can't keep up with me because I have these conversations. I love them. All right. So it's funny you say that, Shawn. A good example of asking the right questions, I'm going to use a very similar example to what you just used. Right before I got on this call with you guys today, I had a gentleman who wanted to sell the property for $7,000. Well, I'm looking up comps and they're all selling for 150 to 200 grand. That doesn't make sense. Either he's just really dumb or there's something fishy going on. Needless to say, there was a bunch of fishy stuff going on. and it was airship. He said $7,000, and I rebutted back, wow, $7,000? Where'd you get that number? Well, that's what we owe on the taxes. We owe, grandma died and she left it to my auntie. My auntie died. My auntie left it to my mom, and my mom died. And now she left it to me, my sister, my other sister, but she died yesterday, and my uncle. I'm like, wait, so you had a sister that passed away and you're trying to sell me the house? And there's 4 other heirs? Holy cow, you're dealing with a lot. In reality, I basically said, I don't want this freaking deal because now there's 4 other heirs. He thinks I care about him, but unless I'm paying $7,000 or less, it's no wonder it's $7,000. It's a damn good price, because now I'm going to have to go through 6 months of affidavit paperwork and tracking everybody down and getting everybody to sign a contract. I don't have time for that. I don't want that deal unless he's going to give it to me for $7,000. Well, everybody just wants $1,000 to be done with it. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And we set up an appointment, and I sent out my inspector. If I can get it for $7,000, I'm going to take that deal. That's a home run. That's worth doing the paperwork on. All those houses are going for 140 to 150 downtown Fort Worth. He thinks it's getting foreclosed on or condemned by the city, and they owe $7,000 to taxes, and he just wants it out. I will take that deal all day. But I need to know this stuff. By asking those questions, I found out that he's got 5 heirs, and he's dealing with the death of his other sister as of 6 p.m. yesterday, which I thought was really weird that he knew the time and date and down to a T. So as if he was saving up money for bond money when he gets picked up because he knew the time of death. It was kind of creepy. That's me reading in between the lines. That's my detective Michael coming out in me. So, all right, number 5. This is something that I can't stress enough, and it's going to just make sense as soon as I say it, but people take it for granted. We go into a conversation, we want to get the bed, bath, square footage, we want to do this, right? And we go through this regiment of system, but number 5, key to success in sales is to make a genuine connection. Almost as important as understanding the needs of your customer is being honest with him or her, right? Everybody's heard the stereotype about sleazy salespeople bent on misleading customers intentionally to distract them. This isn't a strategy that's used by sales professionals. And it's not something that I would ever teach you and want you to ever use in your sales repertoire. The key thing to remember when making a genuine connection is that you're on the same side as the customer. Like I said earlier, sure, you may be sitting across from them during the deal, but realize that the honest approach, the win-win situation is going to be better for you and for your customer. And customers are human, just like you. Although they may come to you and make a purchase or make a sale, most customers are scared, They're scared because money's hard to come by. They're scared because they, just got this tax notice. And if they're selling a product like a house, 50, 100 grand, that's a lot of money. They want to make sure that they're not leaving any big chunks of it on the table, right? It also doesn't help that there's all these sleazebag sales people that have been stereotyped throughout, wholesaling careers, that are liars or trickers, and they're trying to take, all their necessary money. This is a stereotype that comes with every good salesperson is going to have to overcome. The easiest way to overcome that perception is to be genuine with them. If you don't know something, tell them you don't know. But don't lie to them and make something up to make it feel good, to get the contract. Because what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to live up to that lie. And then the title company is going to be throwing something at you, and you're going to have to come back and have a conversation with your seller again. And then you're going to be up a creek without a paddle. Now, your customer may not understand every detail about the product or service that you're selling. I want to differentiate. Being honest and transparent and genuine doesn't always mean that you have to give them too much either. Think about that. I'm not being dishonest because someone tells me, well, I want 100,000, that's my tax appraisal. But they're over on Casa View or Casa Linda over here off of White Rock Lake in Dallas, which I know that house is probably homesteaded if it's at 100,000, and it's probably worth about 200 cash or 350 retail. That doesn't mean that I'm being dishonest because they feel like they're getting a good deal at 100,000 because they're getting tax appraisal. I want you to make sure you are aware of that. I'm not being dishonest if they feel that they're getting a good deal, and it's a win-win. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But don't lie and cheat and steal from them when they say it's worth $100,000, but they know that their neighbors did this. Well, they got 200, but my appraisal's only 100. I don't understand that. Well, let's look at that and be honest with them and say, hey, this is what it could be, but it shows here you have it homesteaded. That tells me you've been there for a few years. You probably need to do some updates to get to that 200 grand. Wouldn't you agree? Oh, yeah. Guess what? I just got that property back down to 100 grand. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
All right. Now, number 6, because we're wrapping up here on time, getting the customer to say yes as often as possible. This is something that I cannot stress enough. There's all different sales psychologies, but I'm going to tell you, in my professional opinion, and I say this as a professional and as of my opinion, and so you don't have to just take my word for it. Cedric's worked with me, right-hand man, and seen it happen. I will get somebody to say yes 20 times before they ever say yes to what they really need to. And a lot of sales trainers, Grant Cardone is one, he doesn't necessarily agree with this all the time, but he used to teach this. I asked the question, Grant, what's changed? That's what got you there, right? And so back to the basics, Sales 101, get the customer to say yes as often as possible. And so what that looks like is, hey, hope you're having a great day. You got anything planned for this weekend? No? Well, I mean, you said you're going to the movies. That's right. That's something, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. See what I did there? Nothing big. We might go to the movies. Well, you said you're going to the movies. That's something, right? Well, yes. Now you're slowly inching them. So it makes it easier to say yes. You can do this very simply by asking questions designed to keep the customer in a positive mindset. For example, you wouldn't ask the customer, what color of house they would want. It could give you all different types of scenarios. But you could say, ask them if they would like a light or dark colored house. Although this isn't a yes or a no, it will help them, get specifically on where you're headed, right? If you've watched any of my videos, I ask a question, I make a joke, tell me about your house. This is, the tax roll says this is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Is that right? It's either a yes or a no. And if it's yes, great, I know what I'm dealing with. If it's a no, I can play it off and say, and that's why I ask, you know your house better than anybody, right? I got him to say yes. See what I did there? Just simple stuff like that. The more times you can get them to say yes, get them to tell them about yourself. Go through the warm with form that I've taught, right? And then once you've done that and you've gotten into the closing section, before you go into that, ask permission to talk about yourself. Hey, Josh, do you mind if I share with you who I am so you know who you're dealing with?
Sure, Bryce.
Okay, great. And I go through my business and what we've done. And then I say, don't just take my word for it. Look me up. Go to my website. You've heard my ad on the radio. You heard Rick Carlisle talking about me. And this is what most of my clients like, because once we come to a number, before we sign anything, I'm going to send someone out to look at your place. That's the only type of business you want to work with today, right?
Right.
And you like me, Josh. I mean, I'm the only type of guy you want to work with.
You're the only type of guy I want to work with, Bryce.
Awesome. So at the end of the day, it just boils down to dollars making sense, right?
Right.
Boom. We're going to talk numbers. I'm going to close you 9 out of 10 times. Getting the customer to say yes as much as possible. Number 7, building rapport. Sometimes it comes natural. Sometimes building rapport is something to be expected, right? Not very many people are good at it. Go back into the group and watch Dylan's videos 2 months ago. Love you, bro, because you might be watching this, but you weren't great at building rapport. And you guys can see that. You know, working with your client isn't always about the product or the professional. It should also focus on the individual when it's appropriate. So, you know, I talked about reading between the lines. You heard my dog barking in the background. As soon as it got quiet, if I would have been on the other end, oh, wow, what kind of dog you got? That's some killer over there. Make a joke, make light of it. They start talking about what builds warm fuzzies in their family. And this is going to be number 8. And I'm going to give it to you right now so we can wrap this up, because this is a little longer than I expected, but I appreciate you guys. Number 8, you cannot sell anything unless you add value to people's time, money, and family. Time, money, and family. And how do you do that? You do a product or service demonstration whenever possible. So number 8 is perform a thorough demonstration when possible, which goes to what I was saying. Hey, may I tell you about myself? You know, I asked Chris at the beginning of this call, hey, Chris, can I coach you for a second? I asked for permission. I built the rapport. He gave me permission. I gave him a nugget, hopefully, and it's a win-win. Now we've got a more positive Chris in the world, right? And now he knows that I truly care about him, and he don't know me from Adam, right? And so that same means of transportation through that process can be put into any situation. You're having trouble with your wife, your girlfriend, build some rapport with her. Find out what she likes. You know, maybe she's not a big talker, but maybe a note on the mirror for the next 2 weeks telling you every night a different thing you appreciate. It's going to take your relationships to a whole nother level. It's going to take your family to a whole nother level. And when you can get your personal and your family relationships, guess what happens, guys? Your professional relationships start taking off. Promise you. Promise you. That's all I've got. I hope that somebody took something away from that today. I want to just talk about Basics 101 with sales. We haven't done that yet. Anybody have any questions, any comments, concerns from what I shared with you today?
No, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Appreciate you, Michael. Anybody
Hey,
else?
Bryce, what was number 3 again?
Number 3. Josh, what was number 3?
Communication. Oh, my bad.
Communicate.
Was it? I have asking questions.
Was
I gotta
asking-
ask you questions for number 4.
Oh.
Slipping.
Communications. Learn communication skills.
Yeah, it's communications. Sales is all about communicating effectively. And this is recorded too, so as soon as this recording uploads, I'll put it into the group for everybody to go back and watch it if you have questions or anything like that that you don't feel comfortable asking here. Anything else, guys?
How often do you do these, Bryce?
Every Wednesday, 12 noon Central.
Okay.
Every Wednesday. Yes, sir. That's a great question. Terry, does that help you, man?
Bryce, I got like 1,000 questions. But,
I know
One of the things you mentioned about going through probate,
Uh-huh.
and you mentioned something else, airship, or what was that word you used?
Airship affidavit or affidavit of airship. The title company will handle that. And probate is a status in the court. Probate is it's a great question, by the way, for people like other people in the group that might not know. Probate is anything that is civil that has to be processed due to an unfortunate circumstance. That's the way I describe probate. So grandma died, you better take all your belongings through probate. You know, you're going through a divorce, you're going to go to probate. You're going through a child custody battle, that's probate court. All of those like family service courts is a form of probate. Probate leads, however, when compiled against the real estate list, you're looking specifically for people that have died, people that have power of attorneys, people that have heirship affidavits filed, things like that. Those are the probate real estate leads that you're looking for.
What is heirship affidavit, Bryce?
So that is something that's here in Texas. There's also a affidavit of kin, like in Illinois, they call it an affidavit of kinship. Every state is different. So basically what it is, Josh, in Texas, let's say that my dad died and I am inheriting a house, but dad did not have a will. Well, what that is, give me one second. What that basically is it's a form on file with the state to show my property, and it's not just personal real estate property, it's anything, finances, cars, all of that. The affidavit of heirship is a form that is filed with the state if there's no will or the will was never probated and recognized in the court.
Got it.
If I have a will, but I die and nobody knows about it, then they are going to have to file what's called affidavit of heirship. Or if they find my will in the state of Texas, they have up to 9 months to get it probated after the time of death. And so, you know, let's say that Mr. Jones and I are brothers from the same mother, right? And that joke, man. They're supposed to make you smile, bro. We got the same father. It was funny. Anyway, so let's say Mr. Jones and I are brothers, right? And mom passes. Well, mom also had Mr. Jones from another dad, right? But he's still my brother. But dad is part owner of the house. It can get really hairy, right? Because dad is still alive. Well, because dad and Miss Jones are not legally or biologically kin, what happens is dad and Mr. Jones and myself have to split those proceeds right away. Because mom passed and I'm from a different relative. Does that make sense? And so it's just Texas' way of finding legal ownership in that process.
And it's different for every state.
It's different. Every state does it differently. Correct. Yeah. And they have different forms. It's all a very similar process, but it's all done differently. Texas is very thorough and they try to just protect everybody. And so, you know, I had one a couple months ago. It was a home run deal. Well, come to find out, there's a third cousin removed that's in prison, and he wanted everything. He felt when he got out, that was his place to have it when he got out. But so-and-so died, and he don't have a place to go to. He wasn't signing anything. Guess what? That deal never went through. He got out about 6 months ago. He's living in the house now. He got a place to go. It can be frustrating. It can be frustrating.
How to find out if a property is in probate or is there any other relatives?
Two parts. You're going to have to get that information from county records. It's all public information. You have to go down to the county courthouse, go to the city clerk or county clerk and request those records. Give me 1 second, Terry. Manuel, you've got your hand raised, my friend. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was just going to mention the contract I got signed yesterday. I told you about. She had that affidavit of heirship. She had to get it
Boom.
notarized and filed in the courthouse.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll make things so much easier for you. And you and I we'll jump offline if you need help going through that. But your title company can handle that, brother.
Can I ask you a question about that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I'm up against the tax auction, which is coming up Tuesday, the 1st.
Is it on the list?
Well, that's what she told me, that it's on the list for Tuesday, but she's not 100%. So how do I confirm? Do I call she gave me the letter that the lawyer sent her.
Mm-hmm.
The law firm, I guess, that handles the tax foreclosure.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically a foreclosure notice for her to contact them about paying the taxes. And she already did contact them. And they said that she owes about $10,600 in taxes. And she needs $1,700 to stop the foreclosure and put her on a payment plan.
Yep.
So you can do a couple of different things. Number one, if you've got it under contract and you're just going to wholesale it,
Yes.
I mean, I would start marketing that thing like yesterday, number one. And number two, if it's the pre-foreclosure letter, that's just the notice. And she's got 45 days to come up with that $1,700. On the 46th day, then they will file with the court here in Texas. And from that point moving forward, there's nothing she can really do. It's a lost cause, and it will go on the auction on the next time. It sounds like, and Jones, help me out here, it sounds like she's just simply got that pre-foreclosure status notice, correct?
From what he's saying,
From the attorney?
I deal with a lot of the auction properties. Most of the time, I normally have the attorney go down and pay the $1,500 to stop the auction and proceed on with my regular wholesaling deal. So by him saying Tuesday, sounds like.
Does the letter that you have, Manuel, does it have the date on there for next Tuesday?
Let me check real quick. It says it doesn't.
Or is it
have
a file date?
I'm sorry. No. Let's see here.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we jump off, unless you guys want to hear this? I mean, it's either one of two things. So for you guys that are in Texas, like Terry and Manuel and Michael, you're in Texas too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, for you guys that are in Texas, this is really pertinent. We have 45 days from notice. And so if the lawyers filed notice, there's 45 days. If the file of notice has already passed, and now that's a letter of recommendation to the court, which also may be the case, then you have, till the first Tuesday of the month.
There ain't no date on here, Bryce, but it's just a simple letter with the letterhead from the law firm, and has a couple of paragraphs. It says you have 10 days to respond to avoid further legal action, and in big red letters it says subject to a foreclosure right across the whole paragraph, but there ain't no dates. So I guess I gotta ask her. She don't really know. Remember, she's young. She don't know what's going on.
Right. Yeah, so you can also look on the county website too. If you go to your county website, you can look for you can really just Google, your county, whatever county you're in, and what the Jones, help me out here. I don't deal with this as often as you do. What are you looking for? You're just looking for the auction list, right?
Yeah, a lot of times that's what I do. I normally purchase the sheriff sales list and the pre-foreclosures list. So by him saying that, and that's the irritating part with a lot of the sellers, because I mean they wait so long until the last minute and they decide to sell these properties because they feel as though they can come up with the taxes and things like that. Then they put us at a disadvantage. Right. So she's actually coming to him saying that she has.
Yeah, and this was actually a referral that he got. So this was a referral from a friend that he met networking. So I don't think she's that far behind. I think that he still has that 45 days to come up with that money. And in your case, Manuel, because it's such a good deal, you might come up with the $1,700 and pay it for her.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm thinking.
get that contract signed first if you don't already, which you said you did.
I
It
did.
might be worth you paying that money to get it, secured to be safe. Because
See,
without being in your shoes and having the paperwork, I can't really say one way or another.
I got the contract signed, and I already got people interested. I got an appointment tomorrow morning to go show it, and whatchamacallit, so, but my concern is Tuesday is the auction. I ain't gonna be able to close it by Tuesday. So, like, I was gonna try and do that, pay that $1,700. But should I call this law firm or should I call the courthouse?
Have your buyer put up to 1,700.
She ain't got no money.
That's what I do.
No,
he said your buyer.
Have your buyer put up to
the buyer.
1,700.
But then, okay, so could I use that 1,700 as earnest money then?
Yep. See, my situation, that's how I normally handle it. If I got a property that's going to the auction the first Tuesday of the month, I always have my buyer. You got a slam dunk deal. The property, it's not gonna close before then, but all that 1,700 does is it extends your period. So they won't auction that property off on that Tuesday.
Yeah.
That'll give you enough time to close that deal and get your wholesale fee.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is, when I get the buyer tomorrow, it looks like, should I tell them I'm gonna need 1,700 earnest money and then take that earnest money down to the courthouse and pay it?
A lot of times I just have my buyer do with his attorney. Now, if you want to do it the other way, like either way, if you want to give you the 1,700, the $2,000, the 2,500, and you want to take that to have them stop the sale, then that's fine. But if you got a good deal, however you got to get the 1,700, get it. I'm just saying, me personally, I get it from the buyer.
Okay.
Like I said, like I told you, man, we'll find a way, make a way, and take away, and then always repay.
Sir,
don't miss out on that money.
I'm gonna get that 17 somewhere, but do I gotta go down by myself or do I gotta take the homeowner girl?
Yeah, she has to be with you.
Yeah, she's gonna have to be with you.
Yeah, she gotta.
Okay, so I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Then tell her that we're gonna make a trip to the courthouse tomorrow because we got to stop that.
Yeah, to stop that sale. Yep. And from that point on, you can wholesale it after there. Just make sure they don't auction it off.
Yes, sir. That's the only thing that I'm up against is the Tuesday.
You want to call her as soon as you get off this call, though, and start having her go down there with you sooner than later. Because if you're going to wait till tomorrow to do it, it's Friday. They shut down their offices. County offices start shutting down at 12 o'clock, even though they say they're open till 3.
Yeah.
Get down there early.
Yeah. Thanks for that tip. Yeah.
And it's a holiday weekend, bro. You better get off this call just like the rest of us. You better get out there today.
Yeah, she's being very cooperative because she knows she's gonna be out in the street if she don't sell it with nothing.
Cool. Well, man, I hope that helps you. Thank you, Jones, for helping me on that, because that's not I don't deal with that. I don't have time to deal with that. And so we don't do a lot of those deals. When we do, we'll just purchase them outright and deal with it later when they're that good of a deal.
Someday I get to where you at, Bryce, man.
That's all right, man. Man, if I can help you out, let me know, bro. I wasn't here that long ago, man. All you gotta do is stop buying those lists and go down and get them yourself from the.
Well, actually, I have somebody that give me their account, so I go on there and just pay for them.
Well, let me get some of those leads, bro. There you go, Terry. You need to get with Mr. Jones. He's got some leads for you.
Got some leads for you.
All right, you guys. I appreciate you guys. You guys are all in the group, so as soon as this gets done recording and processing, I'll put this back up there if you guys want to go back, watch it later. I appreciate every single one of you guys for being a part of this group and also the content and the collaboration here. This is what this group's about, so I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce.
Have a great day. Have a great weekend, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
You too. God bless. Stay sharp.